10 cents as of right now when it comes to ZBCN is around a 23x from here. And I haven't given up when it comes to Zebec, by the way, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, what I find pretty fascinating about what I'm seeing right now when it comes to ZBCN is that even though not too long ago, 10 cents was around an 11x from where it once was, now it's around a 23x, and who knows, maybe ZBCN could go lower if, let's say, altcoins did, not do as good, right? But then at the same time, why am I still not giving up when it comes to Zebec? It's because I still like the fundamentals, but even beyond that, I feel like during the cycle, it's a little bit different than back in 2021 because I felt like back in 2021, projects, generally speaking, they weren't really doing that good, and then suddenly there was that rise, right? But then during the cycle, we've seen moments where a project did pretty good, and then there was a pullback, and, those times it had a pullback, if I'm looking to dollar cost average, I find that pretty surprising. If let's say my intention was the dollar cost average and then the price just went up like that and then never had a dip, like momentarily or something, then that's a different case. But then just because of the things that are going on, during the cycle, there's been moments like that. And it's kind of rare to see that back in 2021. So I find that pretty fascinating. We've seen kind of multiple moments now when ZBCN had that pullback again after having a pretty good recovery and then that pullback again. When ZBCN was around an 11x to go to the price of 10 cents, I personally know some people out there that was telling me oh wow, if only there was a 50% dip or maybe even more. Now, ZBCN is actually, again, around 50% lower than that, right? Or even more than that, I should say. And now the exact same people who told me that, they're saying, oh wow, I can't believe the price was not doing good. I was like, what? I'm not telling you to do anything, by the way, right? But this is just my perception. If let's say I like the t-shirt at $10 and I'm like, wow, if only it was 50% off. Then it went to the price of $5. Then I'm suddenly like, yeah, no, I don't want it. And then when someone asks me why, I'm like, oh, because there's a discount. It's like, what? Wasn't that what I wanted to in the first place? Or should I say what I wanted to happen? Again, I'm not telling you to do anything personally. I'm just believing ZBCN, on my own decision, right? No matter what I saw online or no matter what I read up or something like that. This is my own decision. But this is just my perception when it comes to this. Me believing in ZBCN, it does not mean it's going to do good. Me believing in a project in general does not mean it's going to do good. The project doing good, that's beyond my control. But then I just like what I'm seeing because I feel like Solana as a layer 1 blockchain is just kind of getting started. Back in 2021, sure, it had a good bull run, right? But then Solana didn't really become mainstream yet. Now it's kind of having that moment to become mainstream, but then the market isn't necessarily doing the best. And then we all know, Zebec has an aspect of Solana. Even not too long ago, ZBCN was top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana. And imagine, Solana is a pretty okay size layer 1 blockchain. It's pretty massive in the grand scheme of things, right? And again, Zebec able to do something like that, that's pretty impressive in my opinion. And also, right, if let's say Zebec just had an aspect of Solana and Solana quote-unquote kind of ignored it, then you know what, I'd still believe in it. But then the cherry on top for me is that Solana Ventures is one of the backers when it comes to Zebec. It's like, for instance, sometimes I see some startup companies out there, or some companies that are already pretty established, that already had, an IPO and are, publicly listed and stuff like that. I see in some cases they haven't become profitable ever, but why do they still have this amazing amount of backers or something like that, or some reputable backers who are still willing to fund that, right? And I kind of feel like some cases they sort of have this long-term vision where maybe, yeah, there's going to be losses in the short to medium term, but they're thinking about the future. And I'm not saying I'm going to be able to find something like that within this space, but my mentality when it comes to ZBCN is a little bit like that. Sure, in the short to medium term, maybe it might not do the best, even though it's actually done pretty okay ever since I started talking about it. But besides that, I still have a long-term mindset because I like, kind of Zebec just overall fundamentally. Keep in mind, Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, they supposedly hold a pretty significant amount of ZBCN. And this is not something I discovered on my own, by the way. This information, I literally learned that from a post that Zebec made themselves on X, right? It wasn't something that I just discovered. I was like researching and I tried to find this and find that, and I was like, oh wow, take a look at Circle holding ZBCN. No. Literally, Zebec made a post about something like that, not too long ago. So I find that pretty impressive. If I think about Circle, again, being the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, I think them holding a pretty big amount of ZBCN, allegedly, or should I say supposedly, I think indirectly that could maybe give a lot more stability to something like ZBCN. And the reason why is because I think, arguably, they don't really have a need to sell, right? I mean, I just don't know why Circle would ever need to sell their ZBCN, at least in the short to medium term. First of all, Circle is so massive. USDC, clearly we know the popularity of that, right? Generally speaking. If we just take a look at ZBCN right now, for instance, the market cap currently is around 380 million, at least at the time of this recording. So it's like slightly below 400 million, right? If let's say for whatever reason, in just this make-believe scenario, let's say Circle holds 100% of that. Let's say like their ZBCN holdings is like, around 380 million for whatever reason. Let's say they're like the only holder for whatever reason again. Is that a significant amount of their portfolio in the grand scheme of things? I don't know about that, right? I mean, again, I would assume probably not. Circle is publicly listed, keep in mind. USDC, the stablecoin, they're the creator of that. I highly doubt that they would need this amount. Now, clearly, they don't hold 100%, right? I mean, this is the way to take a look at it. But then, I'm just saying, even in that, example, I just don't even think the ZBCN would have a need to be sold by them. Of course, I'm not a part of their team or something like that, so I don't know their internals, but it just doesn't have that vibe to me. I'm still liking the direction when it comes to Zebec overall. I like they're focused on AI-based PayFi, global trade finance, payments market, what they're doing with the Zebec cards. And I feel like they're just getting started, They're kind of focused on payrolls and stuff like that. I feel like I haven't really seen what Zebec could reach in terms of its ceiling. Because when I view something like Ripple, when I take a look at something like Stellar, they're so massive. But then when it comes to the payments and global trade and finance market, I feel like the discrepancy is still pretty massive in a sense where we saw XRP not too long ago reach a market cap of around 200 billion. But then if we take a look at XLM with a market cap of around 10 billion, even if we compare that to XRP, it's still such a big discrepancy. And then the number 3 player within this space, which is XDC, even that market cap is around 1 billion. So then XLM is already way higher than that, and then XRP is still way higher than even XLM. And then we take a look at something like, ZBCN, which has even a way lower market cap than XDC. I feel like this space hasn't really kind of had that mainstream attention yet, at least during this cycle. So I still believe in it, and if I believe in those more massive projects, I don't know why I wouldn't personally believe, even though I'm not telling you to do anything, in a project that is somewhat similar to that with a Solana aspect, and again, with just a way lower market cap. So I haven't given up. But this is just my mentality, and again, 10 cents around a 23x from here, market cap around $9 billion at that point. It's still something I'm thinking about. But, only time will tell. I'm staying patient, though, because what I've learned about ZBCN was that things can happen when I least expect it to do so, which it did, actually. When I was first holding a ZBCN, I had a pretty good rally. So whenever there's that next leg up, maybe if it ever even were to happen, if let's say there's an altcoin season, it's going to be when I least expect it to do so, I think, most likely, which is why all I can do is just stay patient, hold, and I just wait. But I clearly don't want to give up, but this is just my own decision, and I'm still staying patient. And also, I want to say thank you for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you all have a nice day. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.